All the Young Dudes, Sirius's Perspective by ROLLERCOASTERWORDS. Chapter 8, First Year, Secrets. Friday the 17th of September, 1971. James's owl had returned empty-handed, not even a scrap of paper tied to her leg. Sirius tried not to show how much this upset him. Surely Reg wasn't ignoring him. Probably their parents had forbidden Sirius's brother from writing to him. Further punishment for his failed sorting. But this line of thought didn't make Sirius feel any better, as it only set him wondering how Reg was doing, and whether he was all right by himself. It was the first time in either of their lives that the boys had been separated. Well, aside from that 1 year when Sirius was a baby before Reg was born, but he didn't remember any of that. And even at Hogwarts, surrounded by other students, Sirius missed his brother. He would find himself thinking about a joke he'd heard that Reg would particularly enjoy, or about how scared Reg might be if he heard the rumours that there was a monster hidden in the castle. His little brother had always been a bit of a crybaby. Sometimes, lying alone in his bed at night, Sirius would remember how when he and Reg were little, they'd sneak into each other's rooms, whispering until they fell asleep next to each other. On those nights, Sirius felt hollow with loneliness, even surrounded by the 3 other boys. So although he tried his best to hide it, Sirius was in a sour mood all day. He had never been very subtle with his emotions. He snapped at Peter in the morning, and he was snippy with even James. Remus seemed to sense his bad mood and steered clear of him, hardly saying 2 words to Sirius throughout their classes and eventually abandoning them for another one of his detentions. Finally, after a particularly snide remark towards Peter during a game of Exploding Snap, James had had enough. "Oi, either play nice or tell us what's bothering you. You can't keep sulking all weekend." The words were spoken firmly, although Sirius had a sense that James was trying not to be too harsh. Still, it stung. Sirius huffed, feeling very sorry for himself. First his own brother refused to speak to him, and now James was having a go. "Fine," he stood angrily. "I'll piss off then." He stormed off to their room, waiting for James to come after him. But he didn't. By the time they were all getting ready for bed, Sirius could see that he'd been a bit of a prick, and was feeling embarrassed about the whole thing. "Tell us what's bothering you," James had said. And while he certainly wasn't going to tell Peter, Sirius realized that he did want to talk to someone. He waited, once more, until the other boys were tucked into bed, after all the curtains had been shut. He tiptoed over to James, pulling back the curtains sheepishly. "Sirius?" James sat up, blinking, and fumbled for his glasses. "You alright, mate?" Yeah, sorry, do you mind if I—" Yeah, come in." Sirius let the curtain fall shut behind him, closing them in. For a moment, the 2 boys only looked at each other. Sirius turned away first, glancing down and fiddling nervously with the crease of the blanket. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, I suppose, for being a prick." "Thanks, mate. I know you didn't mean it." When Sirius looked up, James was smiling encouragingly. He attempted a weak smile in return. "Tell us what's bothering you." "It's just, Reg was supposed to write back." The words came out a bit rushed. James frowned. "Your brother?" "Yeah, he was meant to write, and I promised him I'd write, and I thought I'd never been away from home, you know, and I just—" "You miss him?" James offered. "Yeah." Sirius released a breath. "Yeah, I do, and I'm worried about him." James waited patiently as he collected his thoughts, taking another breath before saying, I think my parents were really upset I didn't get into Slytherin. And even though it's not Reggie's fault, they can be intense. Things aren't always good with my family. Do you know what I mean?" James's brow was furrowed. He was watching Sirius intently. "I'm not sure. Are you worried they're mad at him too?" Sirius felt a hot rush of shame. Of course James wouldn't know. It wasn't as if he'd ever been a disappointment to anyone. Deep down, Sirius knew that the screaming matches, the punishments, the scars, it wasn't the way normal families behaved. He felt embarrassed for even bringing it up. Sort of, he shrugged, withdrawing a bit. More like, Reg might have to pay for my mistake. James still looked a bit confused, but he reached out to clasp Sirius's arm. Hey, he caught Sirius's eye. You didn't make a mistake. I think it's brilliant you're in Gryffindor. And if your brother is anything like you, I'm sure he'll be alright. That's what I'm worried about, Sirius thought, but didn't have the words to say it. Sirius continued to wait, glancing about fugitively every morning when the post arrived, hoping to get something from Reg, but nothing came. His late-night conferences with James became more regular, even though Sirius didn't always know how to explain, and even though James didn't always know what to say. He was a good listener. The conversations made Sirius feel less lonely, and sometimes he could go the whole day without thinking about Reg, too caught up in planning pranks with James or frantically completing homework. Of course, there was always a crush of guilt once Sirius realised how long he'd gone without even wondering if his little brother was doing all right, especially considering his promise to keep in touch. He sent one more letter near the end of September, but when regulars didn't write back, he gave up. This only led to renewed attempts to keep busy, filling every waking moment with activity so he didn't have to think about his family, or to think about how he was avoiding thinking about his family. Luckily, there was no end to the distractions provided by Hogwarts. The professors were engaging, the magic was fascinating, and James was always by his side, ready with a quick joke. Even Peter got less annoying, keeping Sirius occupied with games of chess or exploding Snap. But one of the best distractions by far was Remus Lupin. Though he spent more time with them, the boy remained an enigma. He was excruciatingly private, sharing very little detail about his life among Muggles. Even when Sirius worked up the courage to ask a few simple questions, Remus would only reply with one-word answers or wordless shrugs. He continued to periodically disappear into the castle on mysterious errands, often arriving back in the common room with only minutes to spare before curfew. Sirius watched him closely, trying to figure out what the quiet boy was up to, but he never could. In classes, he was even more infuriatingly hard to pin down. He never glanced at his books, and never completed his homework. By the end of the first month, he accumulated more detentions than any other Gryffindor, even the Pruitt twins. Yet he was frustratingly good at magic. As with the Fusicate charm, Remus seemed to have a knack at casting spells. He often succeeded before any of his classmates when it came to practical work and charms. He would watch Professor Flitwick perform a spell once and almost immediately be able to imitate the small man. Sirius scrutinized his friend, trying to figure out his secret, but Remus Lupin was a mystery that he didn't want to be solved. He made this fact very clear in October, when, on a Monday night, he disappeared completely, never returning to their room to sleep. Sirius and James were up late into the night, whispering. James patiently listened to all of Sirius's theories about where Remus might have gone and provided feedback, but the other boy never returned. They didn't see him again until the next morning when he appeared in their transfiguration classroom. He looked tired, with dark circles ringing his eyes, but otherwise normal. Sirius, James, and Peter spent the lesson trying to get their friend's attention, but he ignored them. Sirius noted that McGonagall didn't give Remus any detention for forgetting his homework, which was unusual, and made him wonder if the professor knew what happened, but he certainly wasn't going to ask the teacher about it. He didn't want to rat Remus out if he'd been off making mischief through the night. In the halls, on the way to Charms, they were finally able to ambush Remus. Sirius spoke first, blurting out, "So, where were you?" "Nowhere," Remus said gruffly. "Oh, go on." James came at the other side of him, wheedling. "Tell us, was it the same place you went last month?" "Maybe." "Were you in detention again?" asked Peter, lagging a bit behind the others. "Nope." "Then where—" "Watch it, half-blood," Neither of them had been watching where they were going, and Remus had just ran directly into Snape, who was coming around the corner. He bristled, squaring his shoulders and shoving past roughly as he said, "Watch yourself, Snivellus." Snape didn't let him by, and pushed him instead. Mulciber appeared around the corner, looming menacingly over the smaller boys. Sirius felt adrenaline spiking through him, along with nerves, but Remus didn't look afraid. "I knew it was you who broke into our dorms the other night," Snape hissed. "All of you." "Yeah? Prove it," James smirked, folding his arms. Snape sneered with rage. "I can't yet, but I will, and I'll get you back too, I promise." "We're quaking in our boots," Sirius chimed in, leaning back against the wall and hoping he looked as brave as Remus and James. "Now would you kindly move it?" "Your idea, was it, Black?" Snape drawled. Or yours, Potter?" "Had to be one of you. Pettigrew doesn't have the guts, and dear Lupin here clearly hasn't got the brains." Sirius watched as Remus's face went white with rage, fist clenching immediately. It was the same expression he had the day he'd flown across the desk in potions and nearly broke Snape's nose. "Come along, gentlemen," a sharp voice interrupted the spat, echoing a bit in the corridor. Professor Flitwick stepped out of his classroom and gave them all a disapproving look. "Severus, you're clogging up the halls. All 4 of you are supposed to be in my class. Come along." The adrenaline stayed with Sirius for the rest of Charms, as Snape's word echoes in his head. He felt a rush of anger. It was nothing compared to Remus, though, whose expression remained stormy. He kept shooting his cushions across the room like missiles, with enough force that Sirius was worried he might break a window. For the rest of the day, the boy was swollen and withdrawn. When they went to bed, he drew the curtains quickly before any of them could speak to him. Sirius looked at James, raising an eyebrow. "What do you reckon's going on with that one?" James just shrugged, palms open in a helpless gesture. "Your guess is as good as mine." Thursday, 7th of October, 1971. Sirius continued to watch Remus for the next few days. He was pretty sure that the other boy had started to catch on. He would sometimes glance up and catch Sirius staring, but all Sirius had to do was offer a friendly smile, and Remus would smile tentatively back, so he didn't think there were any hard feelings. He couldn't stop thinking about what Snape had said, the comment about brains. That was what really upset Remus. He was clearly sensitive about it, and the fight in potions had been because Snape suggested he couldn't read. He never opened his books, and he hardly ever wrote anything down. He didn't even jot notes in class. Sirius's mind was whirling with the question, could it be true? He wanted badly to discuss it with James, but decided not to. It didn't feel right talking behind Remus's back about something like that, especially not when it was clearly a sore subject for the boy. So Sirius continued his careful observation, waiting to see if he'd be able to figure it out. As luck would have it, the opportunity came on that Thursday. They were all working on homework in the common room. James was working on Remus's. It had been a battle to get the sullen boy to agree to the help, but after James asked to learn obfuscate in return, Remus finally agreed. Stubborn, Sirius thought to himself, and proud. He clearly liked to do everything alone, even in the case of homework, when that meant not doing anything at all. Sirius didn't understand why he continued to hold himself at such distance, and got distracted musing over it, though he was supposed to be finishing his own essay. Had they done something to offend Remus? Next to them, Peter was attempting to levitate an apple into the wastepaper basket a few feet away. They had been working on levitation in Charms, and it was so ridiculously simple that Sirius wasn't sure why Peter still seemed to be unable to grasp it. His apple kept wobbling and falling back down on the ground with a thump. It was starting to get on Sirius's nerves. A black has no time for incompetence," said a shrill, spiteful voice in his mind. James was much more patient, murmuring reassuringly, "You'll get it, Pete, don't worry. He didn't even glance up from Remus's paper as he said, "Keep it up." "I'm trying," Peter groaned. "I'm sure it's the movement I'm getting wrong. The book said to use a smooth serpentine action, but I'm not sure." He swirled his wand in the air. Remus, who was watching, tutted. "It's not like that," he said, bluntly. "It's like an S shape on its side. Look." He waved his own wand, effortlessly demonstrating the spell and sending the apple sailing neatly into the bin. "An S shape? Are you sure?" Peter frowned. Sirius wanted to roll his eyes. Remus had just done the spell, hadn't he? "Wingardium Leviosa," Peter chanted, copying the motion Lupin had shown him, and pointed his wand at a piece of paper. Sirius watched as the paper lifted into the air, still a bit wobbly, and flew with less grace into the bin, dropping beside the apple. It was still a bit sloppy, but Peter looked elated. "I did it!" he gasped. "An S shape! Why didn't they just say that in the book?" "Well done, Pete." James paused his work, looking up and smiling. "You should be a teacher, Remus." Lupin snorted, as if the idea was ridiculous. Looking down at the ground, Sirius could almost swear he was blushing. James continued, "I'm nearly done with this. I just need to check something. Can you pass me Magical Theory, the waffling book?" The others weren't watching. James was reviewing his work, and Peter was levitating more balls of paper, looking delighted with himself. So it was only Sirius who saw the expression of naked panic that bled across Remus's face. He stared down at the books, eyes darting quickly from cover to cover. He glanced up at James helplessly, then back at the books. Sirius cleared his throat subtly, leaning across the desk to tap a forefinger against the cover of Magical Theory. He didn't look at Remus as he did it, trying to make it look as though he was reaching for a sheet of paper. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Remus pick up the tome and pass it to He saw James pick up the tome and pass it to James. "Cheers, mate," James said, absent-mindedly, oblivious to what had just occurred. Next to him, Remus's discomfort was almost palpable, but Sirius continued working, acting as though nothing happened. Privately, though, his mind was spinning. A piece of the puzzle fell into place.